In 1999, writer Kinoko Nasu and artist Takeshi Takeuchi would form Type Moon, with the goal of creating visual novels. Visual novels are interactive video games that feature a text-based story with visual elements such as sprites and backgrounds. Type Moon would release their first visual novel in December of 2000, Tsukihime. Tsukihime follows the story of Shiki Tono, a boy who was in an accident 8 years prior that gave him the ability to see the death of things in the form of lines. Due to this accident, he was disinherited by his father and sent away. 8 years later, his father would pass, at which point he is called back to the Tono family mansion. From this point, the story can branch off into 5 different points, depending on the choices made by the player. Each path follows the story of one of the 5 main heroines: Arcuade, Ciel, Akia, Hisui, or Kohaku. Tsukihime sold extremely well and gained a sizable following thanks in part to Nasu's unique writing style. Type Moon was approached by Nobuya Narita of Watanabe Productions, which would later become Soft Circle French Bread, with the idea of making Tsukihime into a fighting game. They liked the idea and development started on the Tsukihime Fighter. Nasu wrote the story, Takeuchi designed the characters, and Watanabe Productions developed the gameplay and pixel art. Together, they would create Melty Blood. Released in 2002, Melty Blood takes place 1 year after the events of Tsukihime's non-existent Satsuki route. Shiki Tono begins investigating rumors of a vampire lurking somewhere in town. During one of these investigations, he is attacked by Scion Eltonum Atlasia. After the fight, she explains she is also investigating the rumors and is trying to develop a cure for vampirism. Shiki agrees to help, and the two begin investigating around town for Arcuade and this rumored vampire. Taking a page from its visual novel roots, Melty Blood's story can unfold dramatically in different ways, depending on which fights the player wins and loses, creating a branching story that has the possibility of 8 different endings. However, only one of these endings is the true ending, and it can only be unlocked once the player finishes the first 6. In this story path, after encountering and defeating Arcuade, she refuses to help Scion and reveals to Shiki that she knows more about this rumored vampire than she lets on. Scion then explains that the source of the rumors in town come from the dead apostle ancestor, Tatari. Tatari is a vampire that lacks independence and individuality, but by using rumors, it is able to take a physical form. Which is why a character like Nero Chaos, who dies during the events of Tsukihime, can once again walk among the living, and why sinister doppelgangers like Red Arcuade and Nanaya Shiki can exist. Scion and Shiki come face to face with Tatari, and with the help of Arcuade's reality marble, they force Tatari to take a physical form. They then defeat him, bringing an end to the nightmare. Melty Blood has 16 playable characters. Scion, the main heroine of Melty Blood, who uses her razor-sharp ether light and gun to fight her opponents. Shiki Tono, the main character of Tsukihime. With his mystic eyes of death perception, he can kill anything, be it person or object. Arcuade Brunstead, the main heroine of Tsukihime and the last of the true ancestors. CL, Shiki's classmate and 7th member of the Burial Agency of the Holy Church. Akiya Tono, Shiki's sister and head of the Tono family. Kohaku, Akiya's maid and mad scientist. Hisui, Shiki's quiet but affectionate maid. Miyako, Shiki's stepsister, a novice kung fu practitioner. Nero Chaos, one of the 27 dead apostle ancestors, brought back to life by Tatari. Red Arcuade, a Tatari version of Arcuade who gave into her vampiric impulses. Nanaya Shiki, a Tatari version of Shiki, a killer personified. Scion Tatari, a version of Scion who becomes the successor to Tatari. Akiya Vermilion, a Tatari version of Akiya who gave into her family's demon blood. Knight of Wallachia, the first manifestation of Tatari. And Mecha Hisui, Kohaku's robotic creation. Melty Blood is a fighting game with a strong focus on air mobility. Melty is a 4-button fighter with 3 attack buttons and 1 shield button that can parry incoming attacks when pressed. Most characters have 2 jumps and an air dash that can be used freely. Throws can be performed on the ground or in the air by inputting forward plus C. Each character has access to 2 versions of each special move and an EX version that costs 100 meter when used with the C button. There are also extremely damaging arc drive supers that can be used when you have 300% meter. Although, the most iconic and important mechanic in Melty Blood is the reverse beat system. Reverse beat is simple. It allows you to cancel stronger attacks with weaker attacks and vice versa. Reverse beat can be used offensively and defensively, whether it be for damaging combos or oppressive pressure. Reverse beat is versatile and core to Melty Blood's gameplay. Like the first version of most fighting games, Melty Blood isn't perfect. Damage is high, balance is questionable, and all of the clone characters have nothing unique other than an idle pose and different voice lines. Even so, Melty Blood was able to transform the world of Tsukihime into an action-packed fighting game, and for that reason alone, Melty Blood is a tremendous success. Melty Blood would get its first expansion in 2004, React. React retains the same story mode, but adds a new scenario that takes place after the main story in the game's arcade mode. Before being destroyed, Tatari made a copy of the Dream Familiar, Len. After Tatari was destroyed, this copy remained and causes problems for the cast. If you are able to reach and defeat White Len without losing once, you get to fight the secret boss, Aoko Azoyoi. She considered making White Len her familiar, but after you defeat them, she decides against it, and you fight. After beating her, you finish the arcade mode and get the characters' respective ending. React adds 2 new playable characters, Satsuki Yumizuka, Shiki's classmate turned vampire from Tsukihime, and Len, the Dream Familiar from Tsukihime's sequel, Kagetsu Toya. There are also 4 non-playable boss characters that can be fought in the arcade mode: White Len, Aoko, Powered Cell, and Neko Arc. Clone characters like Red Arc and Nanaya were given unique movesets to differentiate themselves from their original counterparts, giving them gameplay identities of their very own. Some of the characters were even given new moves and mechanics like Hisui and Scion. React introduced a number of balance and gameplay changes that would continue to shape Melty Blood. When the magic circuit reached 300%, it would enter Max Mode, where it would slowly drain back down to 200%. During this time, you could use your EX special moves or arc drives freely. React changed the throw input to be a simple button combination. As a result, throws now had whiff animations. Throws could now be bound to a button macro along with a new context-sensitive button, E, that performed different actions depending on the situation. Another staple of Melty that was introduced in React is heat. When you have at least 100% meter, you can press all 3 attack buttons at the same time to enter heat mode. When in heat, red life will slowly recover while your super meter drains to 0. You also have access to arc drives while in this state. A more powerful version of heat exists called blood heat, which can be activated by pressing all 3 attack buttons while in max mode. Blood heat recovers red life even faster than regular heat and powers up your arc drive. It also unlocks the ultimate technique, the last arc. To perform a last arc, you must shield an attack while in blood heat. It's hard to do, but the damage is no laughing matter. Speaking of shields, 2 new defensive options were added, the shield bunker and shield counter. Additionally, by pressing down and then up forward quickly, the character would go flying, giving even more options for air approaches. Another key aspect to Melty's gameplay that were added in React were charged attacks. While holding down an attack button, certain attacks could be charged, which would give them extra properties like wall bounce or unblockable. React expanded and redefined Melty's gameplay and laid the foundation for what would come next. Released in 2005, Melty Blood Act Candenza would be the first game in the series not to be released on PC. Instead, Act Candenza would be released in arcades, a first for the series. Published by Ecole Software, the game ran on Sega's Naomi hardware. Being an arcade game first and foremost, the visual novel story of the original Melty was removed, but the arcade mode from React remained. This was also the first time the game was given a timer. Before, the match would go on indefinitely until an opponent was KO'd. Several new stages and music were added to the game, along with brand new mechanics. A dodge can be performed by pressing down and A plus B at the same time, letting you avoid attacks and projectiles. Circuit Spark, a powerful technique, gets you out of combos for just 300% meter, activated by pressing all 3 attack buttons while being hit, much like Guilty Gear's burst system. Act Candenza would add 3 new playable characters. Koma Kishima, the demon-like assassin from Kagetsu Toya. Aoko Azuyoi, Shiki's mentor, was given a completely rebalanced moveset, and the same treatment was given to the infamous Neko Arc. Reduce, another unique feature Melty would become known for, allowed players who are being comboed to press buttons during the combo to reduce the combo's damage. You couldn't simply mash though. You had to time your button presses with those of your opponent, making the act of getting hit an interaction between both players. Act Candenza took off in arcades and became a smash hit in Japan. It was given a console release on Sony's PlayStation 2, and a patch released around the same time as Act Candenza was made for React, making it play more like Act Candenza, but without any of the new characters. The PS2 version had its own balance changes, and eventually these changes would be ported over to the arcade version as Act Candenza version B and B2 respectively. Version B would add Len's doppelganger, White Len, as a playable character. Act Candenza gained a large competitive following in Japan and was even featured in Super Battle Opera, a major Japanese tournament. Legendary fighting game player Goichi, better known for his recent performance in Dragon Ball FighterZ, got their start in Act Candenza and would dominate Melty's competitive scene. Act Candenza released its final revision, 2B, on PC in 2007. While it still lacks the in-depth story mode, new tag battle and 2v2 battle modes were added to compensate. Also, the PC version added Neko Arc Chaos as a fully playable character. Act Candenza was a resounding success and got a lot of new people into the series. Not only in Japan, small but dedicated communities would begin to develop in North America and Europe as well. Melty Blood wasn't done though, as the next iteration would be the most ambitious yet. Melty Blood, Actress Again was released in 2008. The story takes place 1 year after the events of the original Melty Blood and React. For unknown reasons, Tatari begins to materialize again, and the characters forget the events of the last year and Scion altogether. Shiki and Scion separately set off to uncover the truth of this strange night. Reliving the events of the last year, they eventually come face to face with someone new. Rice Beef Strideberg, a friend of Scion's who was killed by Tatari 4 years ago. The mastermind behind this new Tatari brought her back to stop anyone from interfering with their plan. Once you defeat her in battle, you face the real culprit behind this Tatari, the Dust of Osiris. The Dust of Osiris is a version of Scion created from the remnants of her soul that were consumed by Tatari. The soul developed within Tatari over time, and when Tatari was defeated at the hands of Shiki, Scion, and Arcoid, Osiris was able to take full control. Knowing that humanity cannot be saved, Osiris seeks to hasten the destruction, but keep a complete record of humanity in Hermes, which would last for all eternity. Scion, with the help of Rice Beef and Shiki, defeat the Dust of Osiris and end Tatari again, this time for good. Actress Again launched with 2 new playable characters, Rice Beef, captain of the Vestial Shield Knights, and the main antagonist from Tsukihime, Michael Roa, the Infinite Reincarnator. Stages were made larger, and a guard meter was added that would deplete the more attacks you blocked, and Air Circuit Spark was added. But the change Actress Again is most known for is the introduction of the Moon Style system. Each character could now pick from 3 different moon styles, crescent, half, or full. Each style had their own mechanics that the others did not. Crescent Moon is the standard style and plays the most like Act Candenza. Full Moon style removes reverse beat, but compensates by being simpler and having higher damage. Half Moon style is simpler than the other 2. It has a shorter meter and will automatically circuit spark when in heat. However, the differences don't stop at system mechanics. Each moon style has different normals and specials depending on the moon picked. For example, Crescent Roa has an orb that can be set and detonated at his command, while Half Moon Roa has an orb that shoots downward at a diagonal angle and acts like a traditional projectile. This is just scratching the surface of the Moon-style system. It effectively tripled the cast. Say you don't like how Crescent Kohaku plays, that's fine. You can still play the other two versions of her that play completely different, thanks to the Moon system. It cannot be understated how much variety, player choice, and depth the Moon system brings to Actress Again. Actress Again would get a PS2 port, much like Act Candenza, called Current Code. This port would add 5 new characters, all with 3 variations thanks to the Moon system. They are Seifuku Akiya, Akiya wearing her school uniform, Mecha Hisui and Kohaku, Mecha Hisui and Neko Arc, new deadly Mecha Maid combinations, Archetype Earth, the true ancestor form of Arcuade, and Shiki Ryogi, a crossover character, the protagonist of Type Moon's Kara no Kyokai. She can also use the mystic eyes of Death Perception. Current Code was then ported back to the arcades and eventually the PC, where the final character was added, Powered CL. The boss character from React was given a sprite overhaul and a completely new moveset. This brought Melty Blood's final roster to 31 characters, but if we include each Moon style, that number becomes a staggering 93 unique playable characters. Actress Again is one of the most ambitious fighting game revisions the genre has seen. It continued the story and expanded the gameplay, creating a true cult classic. Actress Again would receive its final update in 2011, bookending nearly 10 years of development, revisions, and updates. Once development concluded on Current Code, French Bread would try to get a Melty Blood HD into production, but Type Moon wouldn't budge, and the two would part ways. French Bread would go on to create another cult classic fighting game series, Under Night in Birth, which featured Scion going under her middle name Eltonum as a guest character. Current Code would get a release on Steam in 2016, making it the first time a Melty Blood game was fully and officially localized into English. Type Moon would continue to see success with their insanely popular Fate series that would completely eclipse Tsukihime. A Tsukihime remake was planned, but nothing of substance would come to fruition. With Tsukihime dormant, Melty would be carried on the back of the community, looking to play whenever and wherever the opportunity arose. 19 years later, whether it be in the arcade or using CC Caster, people continue to play Melty Blood. Melty Blood isn't the most popular fighting game, but those who did get the chance to play it got to experience a one-of-a-kind fighter like no other. It's an important piece of fighting game history that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Seemingly out of nowhere though, in late 2020, the Tsukihime Remake would resurface, and just a few months later, in 2021, it was announced that Melty Blood would return. Melty Blood Type Lumina releases on September 30th, 2021. Using the Tsukihime Remake as a base, it aims to bring Melty Blood into the modern era with HD character sprites and rollback netcode. Thanks for watching. This video was quite the undertaking. It's the first time I've ever done something like this on my YouTube channel, so I hope you enjoyed. Initially, I wanted to get the video out before Type Lumina released, but I just had so much editing to do, I didn't want to rush it, so it's here a little bit late, but as of right now, I'm really happy how this project turned out. It has been the culmination of, I think I started this in late August, and it's been quite the journey. So to finally have the finished product here, right in front of me, is really great. Anyway, if you've made it this far, you're a real one. Thanks for watching, and, like always, have a great day, and goodbye.